Hello, today I'm speaking to Matteo Flores, who's from Right to Reply. Matteo, how are you today?
Quite fine, thank you for having me here.
Right, it's a new company, Right to Reply. It's all about reputation on the internet, a subject that almost all of us are interested in. Tell us a bit about what your company does.
Well, right of reply allows you to exercise your right of reply on what is, what is published about you online. So you see, you have the right to reply to each and every newspaper that is citing you, and you have the right of reply to anyone that is telling their reality about you. Right of reply implements a very quick way to do that on newspaper, on your credit score, or on social media itself.
So there's the media, the mainstream media, social media, and also your credit, your financial area as well. Can't you just Google these things? I mean, do we actually need a company to be an extra layer on top of that?
Well, you can Google for finding information about you, but your possibility to reply to those information is close to zero, you know. You can publish on a different medium, but if you have one of your name cited in the Washington Post, and you have to reply, you do not have enough power to have the same kind of relevance. And so right of reply is allowing you to reply in the same context, in the same space in which you are cited. And that is, a simple invention maybe, but one that no one has dealt before.
Right, so you're adding another, I mean, it's a search capacity that there is online, but there's also an interactive capacity as well.
Yeah, think about that as a new layer on information that is already published online. So you're able to find out if someone is using your name. You will get a notification if someone is using your name, but as long as the notification, that is something that Google could do for you, you get the ability to say your side of that reality.
Right, so if I'm a famous person and I'm written about in the Washington Post and they write something wrong, rather than using a lawyer, I can use the Right to Reply widget or app or whatever it is in order to give my opinion.
Yeah, you can use the service itself, Right of Reply, that will publish a not editorial version of your reality. So no one is going to tamper with what you are saying about that matter, and you can get it on the same page in, for example, the Washington Post. You will get an asterisk aside from your name, and that asterisk will give all the news readers the same information that you want to tell them.
But there's many famous people, there's a story about them, they might try and make a reply and say, I wasn't with that person that night, for instance, and then the paper says, no, well, we stand by our story. Then what happens?
Well, you have different sets of reality. The right of reply doesn't mean that you have to correct them. They can publish their own version of it, but you have the ability to say your words about them. And so it's something. So
you can put in your version. Say, I was not with that person that night. What happens after that is another matter. It could still go to the courts. It could still go to the lawyers.
Yeah,
but there's still that. But at least in the initial stage, that the reply has been made, and you're refuting whatever has been said.
Yeah, most of the time it's not really about what has really happened. The problem is that you are not given the chance to reply as fast and as clearly and in the same space in which a news story can be published. So most of the time news stories get corrected, but the problem is they get corrected days later, or in page 15 when the news has been in the front page. In this way, you get you get notified if something is being published about you, and you get the possibility to reply that almost in real time.
Okay, the other point, I suppose, is that away from the A-list and the celebrities and everything else, which everybody can understand that they want to have a right to reply and that sort of thing, but it's, for the person in the street, it's being trolled on social media with nasty comments, and obviously it's also your credit worthiness, etc., which the credit card people and other people have under their thumb. Isn't that actually in a way a more common event in terms of right to reply?
Yeah, of course. Most of the time the replies will be on credit score, that in which you can supply your version of what is happening. Most of the time you have errors from credit score agencies, but you are not allowed to speak about that. And that kind of information will be held alongside your credit score. And on social media itself, we're developing an additional feature for the browsers, a plugin that will be able to track those comments and give you the ability to give your opinion about that in the same way in which the original information is presented.
So it could be an answer to some of the trolling that's going on at the moment. I mean, which is an epidemic, really. It's a sort of horror. It's become a horror story, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, it could be in a couple of ways. The first one is with direct reply. The second part is that we're keeping scores about the news sources. So if you happen to see a news source, maybe a troll, that has hundreds or thousands of replies, you already know that that person is doing something wrong, that they are not to be taken into account. So a reputation score is something that we are trying to create for each and every feed or story around on the web.
So it's quite an altruistic type of a company in the sense that it's trying to change things for, I mean, the ideal scenario is that people won't necessarily need you very much, or much less than they need you at the moment.
Well, we strongly hope about that, because creating a more ethical environment is something that we are very strongly trying to do. I don't think that in a short period things will change dramatically, but we are creating for the first time the possibility to exercise one of your rights that is very difficult to exercise right now. You normally have the ability to exercise it if you refer to a lawyer or with a lot of expenses. Right now you can do that online almost in real time.
And one of the issues of the last few years has been, with Facebook and Twitter and all the other giants, who are obviously worth billions, they're absolutely useless at policing their users and content. Is what you're doing part of the process in terms of redressing and addressing that issue?
Well, for a billion company reality as Facebook, it's very difficult to create some sort of mechanism to deal with each and every request.
But isn't there a problem that they don't mind all the controversy and the arguments and everything else, because that's all traffic for them? So it's that they haven't policed it because it would ruin their business model.
Well, I don't know if that was a conscious choice. Right now, they do not seem to be interested in dealing with the right of reply and in dealing with a reputation score. Maybe that is the case. Maybe it's because it's more traffic for them.
Bad for business. Bad for traffic.
Every flame
maybe
is traffic.
Maybe their reputation. They can address this with us at a later date in terms of their reputation.
Yeah, of course, but our aim is to create some sort of new layer across all different news sources and all different social media. Some sort of layer, a reputational layer on top of the internet as we know right now. And reputation is a currency.
So do you expect Right to Reply to be as big a company as some of the companies that it's a layer, being a layer within?
Well, I strongly hope about that. I think it has all the possibility to reach that kind of exposure, because the possibility to reply is something that is strongly needed right now, and it's not granted by all the platforms, because even if most of the platforms allow for example, comments, they do not have the same kind of visibility of the original content. This is the first case where we know about in history in which your voice and the voice of a VIP or a journalist will matter almost the same.
Matteo Flores from Right to Reply, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for inviting me.